This is Do It for a Living, your source for inside information on the future of automotive performance.
Efficiency. Everything comes down to efficiency. If you're efficient at what you do, no matter what it is in life, it will pay dividends.
What's holding you back from starting or growing your business into what it can be? Well, if you're listening to this, it's not a lack of information. What you're about to hear is all you need to get motivated and start making waves. Do It for a Living podcast details the journey of today's true players in their own words. Find out how they broke out so you can too. The time is now. The time is always now.
Welcome back to another episode of Do It for a Living podcast. I'm Kevin Dubois. Before I get started today, I wanted to cover a few items with the Do It for a Living community. First, I want everybody to know that we have a YouTube channel. You can just search for Do It for a Living. It's been out for a while, and we've never really promoted it that much, but we're coming out with some more content for it, and we want people to know about it and subscribe to the channel so we can help get to 1,000 subscribers, which enables us to reach more YouTube features. So that's something I want people to be aware of and check out. Second, our new webpage is out, and we've got a lot of great information on there. Many of the companies that we've done interviews with have profiles up there, and that allows you to go there and you can check out like what they offer, how to get a hold of them, and get some information on those companies as well. So that's on the doitforliving.net webpage, and you look for the resources part of it. And last, on that page, we also have some job opening sections. So if you are a shop that's looking to hire people, we have a form on there you can fill out, and we'll post your job opening up. Likewise, if you're somebody that is looking for a job, hopefully we'll start getting some job openings listed up there in the near future here. So there should be, as this community keeps growing and as the webpage gains more traction, that should be a good resource for everybody. So this week we've got Louis Gelati of G-Speed. Louis is very well known in the LS world. He's been around for a very long time, and I'm sure he'll be glad to share his story here and kind of the background of himself. So Louis, how are you doing today?
I'm good, Kevin. How are you?
I'm doing very good. Now, I'm out here in Florida right before the FL2K event here, and it's not too bad of weather. We just missed a hurricane. So why don't we go ahead and get started? You're back in Crescent, so I fly out here away from you, and now you're still back at the track there.
Yes, sir.
How are you doing? And why don't you go ahead and get started and tell us about yourself? How did you get involved in cars? Give us a background.
My background, really, I've been in this industry my entire life. I was born into it. My dad, who still owns a shop, he brought me to my first race in the late 80s. I think I was 4 or 5 years old. And really, that's what got me started. Sneaking in and out of the pits, getting in trouble, riding scooters, riding wheelies, getting kicked out of tracks, just being a kid. And, ultimately, I was my dad's right-hand man. And as I grew up, as my abilities grew, I took more and more responsibility. I learned to TIG weld when I was 8, built my first, I would say, tube chassis car, probably around the age of 14 or 15. All the experiences that I've been through in pro racing, for the most part, have been with him. And I branched off a couple times, but when I did do some traveling, I would say that one of the things I did was I went to Purdue, went to private high school and private, elementary school, just because that's what my parents wanted for me. And then I went to Purdue because it was close to Indy. I wanted to be close to Indy, and there was a motorsports community there, and they had a really good Formula SAE team, which really wasn't, that was back in the early 2000s, and Formula SAE wasn't really what it is today, but nonetheless, it was something that I thought was neat, and just didn't really know that it was going to do what it did.
Did you walk onto that FSA team as if you can weld at age 8, most of those FSA teams struggle to find anybody who even knows how to weld.
Yeah, I did. I went to the call out. I think I was a freshman, and the team at that point was really old. So it was a bunch of seniors, very few freshmen, and honestly, that 18-year-old kid coming on the team saying he can weld, fabricate, do all that stuff. They don't really take you seriously. So I think the first year, The first year I was just, learning. Was it? They say you don't you don't go to college to learn. You learn to live at college.
Mm-hmm.
And I think my sophomore year, I started going around a little bit more. And one of the guys that was on the team at the time, all the seniors graduated, so we had a whole fresh new team, a bunch of sophomores and juniors. And that's really when I was able to just, go in there and do things the way that I felt that they needed to be done. I wasn't an engineering major. I was a sales major. And in fact, even to this day, I still don't have my degree. I did all my credits, did all my senior project. I think I'm like 10 or 12, 14 hours shy of getting a degree. And honestly, it's one accounting class. We'll talk more about that later. And a bunch of electives. Literally, it's a bunch of electives. So I knew that what I wanted to do in life, I didn't need the degree. It was a piece of paper. And even to this day, I still don't need it. But there may be some time where I'll regret that, but I've yet to cross that bridge. So what happened is started going around to the Formula team, and I started doing some welding and meeting people, and a little bit of machine work, a lot of tube notching, things like that. And that kind of just grew into, I was the chassis lead, fabrication lead, 3 years in a row. I want to say like 03, 04, 05, or 04, 05, 06. Yeah, it was a good time. I met a lot of good people there, learned a lot about engineering, learned a lot about what engineers wanted, what they could do, what they couldn't do. And I bridged the gap between the computer and the real world, which anyone who's an engineer or dealt with engineers in the past knows that that's kind of something that's difficult to link at times.
That's something you see a lot in industry, more so than like performance shops, I think. But like definitely
Yes.
Manufacturing side of things, it's definitely, there's a big disconnect between what engineers and the people actually doing the work. So.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So it's neat because the kinematics lead, Craig, he's actually a calibrator for the Factory 4 GT team now. So he kind of fell off the face of the earth for a little while. I think he went to go work for Cat or John Deere or something. And next thing I know, I see him. He's moving to to North Carolina, and sure enough, he's a calibrator for Ford. And it's neat because I was on that level very young. I think I was crew chief of the year in World Challenge, Prairie World Challenge, 10 years ago. I was 21 or 22, and I was already there. I was already doing that stuff, and these kids that I was working with, while they were my friends, they were still learning, and there was a lot of stuff that they learned that they had to learn on their own. Like we made our own brake calipers one year, and I'll never forget. I don't know what happened, but we're on a skid pad, and all of a sudden we're like, we don't have any brakes, and it's it's not that difficult, right? Why don't we have brakes? Well, I'm not sure, but there's a puddle of brake fluid under the wheels, and every caliper was leaking. And at that point, I think they learned how brake calipers and seals, and you can't use round seals, you have to use square seals, and things that you take for granted having grown up with this stuff. And then you deal with young guys learning and growing. Yeah, just a lot of silly things that you look back on now, but they're everything has a reason, right?
Yeah, we did the exact same thing. Instead of calipers, we did master cylinders, and
oh, okay, yeah, sure,
it never worked.
yeah. So nowadays you see people buy shelf diffs, they buy shelf parts from Tilton, they buy they don't make as many things as they could. They might pick one or two things to make, and then they buy the rest.
Mm-hmm.
But so just kind of fast forwarding, my engineer here at G Speed, Jake, very talented machinist, and very thankful to have him on the team and to have him go through some of those learning curves on a Formula SAE team, because now I don't have to pay for that. He's already done that.
Mm-hmm.
So
did you hire him out of a Formula SAE program?
Yeah, so he was actually hired before G Speed acquired the company that we are today.
Okay,
so G Speed was basically three partners. I have two. There's a partner here in Dallas, myself, and then another partner, majority partner in Houston, and they're older, much older than me. This is not their specialty. What their specialty is business, right? And much like calibrating an engine, running a business is like calibrating an engine. You have to have data. You have to understand accounting. You have to understand taxes. You have to understand so many facets when it comes to business that you don't even need to know what you're working on. If you don't understand business, it doesn't matter if you're the best at what you do. You're destined for failure.
Right.
And I know what I work on really well, and they know the business side. I truly did not realize what I didn't know until I met them. And it's interesting, it's interesting how things work in life. But yeah, I realized that I'm really good at what I do, and I'm a horrible business person. And that didn't really come to light until you find out what you don't know. And then when you really understand what you don't know, then that's eye-opening.
Yeah, it is very eye-opening. I have came to the same revelation. Mine was a couple years ago when I was, as in my podcast we talked about, was when I basically had no money left, and then you realize, where did it all go?
Right? Yes, absolutely. So out of college, I left college early to go work for the family business, which is LG Motorsports. They make a bunch of performance parts for Corvettes and Camaros. By that age, 22, we were running World Challenge. We finished second in the championship, I think, in 2006. We had a three.
For people who don't know, your dad's name is Lou Gelati, and so if you followed, it used to be Speed Vision Challenge or something. It was Speed and then Speed Vision. It's been a bunch of different names, and now it's the Prairie World Challenge, right?
Yep. And so the believe it or not, the tech truck, the tech inspectors, the people that work there are all the same. I've known them since I was a young kid. They've just changed names a couple times, and we were running World Challenge. That was like 05, 06. And again, this was back in the day where you could build your own cars. There were no FIA rules. There was no influence from Europe, where nowadays there's pretty much everything is influenced by Europe, because all the recipes on this side are either not popular or they're mismanaged. So we could build our own cars. We could build our own chassis. We had some support a little bit from GM. I have 40 hours in the wind tunnel from GM due to that program, and it was a good learning experience. And at that point I was 23 years old. I think I'm 33 now. So from there, really building cars, fielding teams, running a crew. This is all sprint race stuff too. Mm-hmm. So it's not endurance. There's no endurance to any of the stuff. Races are 45 minutes long. You don't care about pit stops. You don't care about fuel mileage. Once you send the car off, you never see it again. 2008 comes around. We actually got the blessing from GM to run at that point what was the GT2 class. And so IMSA had IMSA ALMS back in the day. They had GT1, which was a factory Corvette, C6Rs, C5Rs. They had GT2, and then GT3 wasn't really a thing yet. GT3 was kind of starting up in Europe, but it wasn't really much. So 2008, we moved to GT2 class. That was basically it was a really neat class. Unlimited engine stuff. You had to use factory block, factory cylinder heads, factory cradle, some factory suspension parts. Actually, no factory suspension parts. Factory frame. Do whatever you wanted with the driver as long as he was in the cockpit. 16-to-1 compression, 29 millimeter restrictors, making 480, just shy of 500 rear wheel horsepower, EMCO sequential. Really, really advanced for the time, for what it was, considering it was all stock stuff too. So,
and this was in a Vet or a Camaro? Because you've done both, right?
Yeah, it was in a Vet. This was in a Vet.
Okay.
C6 deal. And that program lasted for 2 years. It met its fate ultimately when GM realized that the GT1 class was not gonna live. It was destined for failure.
Okay.
And so how that worked was we went to GM. We said we would like to build this car. The manufacturer had to sign off on it. So like ProDrive did Aston Martin stuff. Michelotto did Ferrari stuff. Riley did the GT2 stuff. Pratt & Miller did the GT1 stuff. So you see that pattern there. There was a shop or company that was outsourced to build the race cars. Well, long story short, GM never signed the homologation form. It never got signed. Why did it never get signed? Because it was never, they changed their mind. The car was already built. The first article was already built. The second chassis was already being made. We ran our first couple races with, teething issues. I think we finished a best of fourth at St. Pete one year. Eric Curran was co-driver, and actually Eric just won the DP championship the last year, the Daytona prototype in Tudor. So that's where that deal was headed. Couldn't get any paper signed, couldn't get the right tires. Michelin wouldn't give us tires, told us yes, we'll give you tires. After PRI, they said no, change your tune. Why? Because we were running against factory GM. GM was coming in with their own GT2 stuff. This was like 09. And we were the outlier. We were the one in the way, and they didn't like that.
And that was their Cadillac program, right? Is that what they were running?
They were actually the Cadillac. The Cadillac program didn't come until the Cadillac program didn't collide with the Corvette program in IMSA/Tudor until later. In fact, it never collided because they ex-nayed the Corvette. There's no more Corvettes in anything but top level Tudor or club stuff. There's no more World Challenge. There's no GT3 except in Europe. Callaway had to sign a non-compete. The car could not be shipped over from Europe to here. Okay. The Cadillac program was World Challenge only. So Cadillac CTSV first year was 04, and they stacked the deck, typical GM. But they did a good job. They just showed all their cards the first race, and they stalled in the start, standing start, and went from last to first in a 45-minute race. And that's the funny thing. That's the funny thing about running against factory programs, right? That car, 2004 Cadillac CTSV, it had an LS7 in it, and the LS7 wasn't introduced until 2006. And it also had a Hewland in it, and no one ran dog boxes in that series. It was all synchro stuff. So it's funny how that works. And we didn't know that until later, but that's just the way that the deck has always been stacked against the privateer. Yeah, I think 2009, we outqualified factory Corvette program at Petit Le Mans, which was probably the highlight of my pro career. I was car chief in charge of pretty much everything. Drivers were Matt Bell, Tom Sutherland, and my dad. They did well. We were outside pole, second to the GT, the Ford GT back then, which was Robinson Racing. But yeah, that was really good because people knew who we were at the time. They put us on the map, and it didn't last. It didn't last long. I mean, it was a 10-hour race. Horrible rain. I think they called the race short. We finished 5th or 6th, but I would say the race was 80% in the rain, and
tons of fun.
We're small. Yeah, we're just a small privateer team, and we just we did the best we could. And so what was cool about that deal was we were using a factory LS3 cylinder head casting, and the gasket was a good gasket. We were using a factory gasket, but the cylinder head was a garbage casting. And after about 3 hours, it would do the typical LS push water deal. And, 15 and a half, 16 to 1 compression, 29 millimeter restrictors. It would see like 80, 82, 84 kPa at wide open throttle. So very, very much under vacuum the entire time. Uh-huh. But that's how you make power in that class. So we learned that the car would push water. And the only way to keep it from eating itself alive was to monitor water pressure. We'd monitor water pressure. We'd pull data every pit stop. And once the water pressure rode the pressure relief valve, we ran a pressure relief valve. We did not run a radiator cap. So it was a 45 psi pressure relief valve.
All right.
Yeah.
So any freeze plugs in that thing are like welded in there, huh?
Yes, absolutely. Epoxied, and then there's 2 bolts per per freeze plug to hold them in. We would shoot water at it. We'd do our pit stop, do our driver change, fuel, and then I'd shoot water at it. We'd shoot water at it. Literally, it would take about a gallon a pit stop. And if you think about it, it's 2.5, 3 gallon system max. So if we didn't shoot water at it, it'd end up detonating and we'd break a piston 2 hours later. So you got to keep in mind that this is endurance racing. You have to run 10 hours, 12 hours. 12 hours of Sebring, 24 hours of Daytona, 24 hours of Le Mans. You have to do this stuff, and you have to last. And so I learned a lot about head gasket sealing, cylinder head preparation, deck surface, gasket itself, and ultimately how we made it last was we would just give it water. It could push water. It would push about 20 ounces an hour when it would first start to push, and then towards the end of the race, when the gasket was just absolutely hammered, it would push about a gallon an hour, which was okay. That's fine. I'm okay with that, because every time we came in, we just shoot more water. Yeah, and it wasn't take the radiator cap off, put water in it. We had a 10-gallon tank that had about 60 psi of pre-charge in it, and literally had a quick disconnect without the coupling on it, and just literally stick the wand in the side of the hood, and it would just take water. And then it would come out the pressure relief valve, so we knew it was full. Yeah, so it was interesting. That class was really neat because literally you could do whatever you wanted. You had a pickup point rule. You can't move the pickup points more than a certain I think it was like 25 millimeters. Your only constraints for the motor were you have to run this restrictor, you have to run this block, you have to run the cylinder head, but you can do whatever you want. So our ingenuity and our brains were able to get to work in that class, and they didn't really fiddle with the balance of performance like they do today. And it showed your ingenuity would propel you forward, and it wasn't socialized racing where if you did well you got your wrist slapped.
Right. Yeah, so they have the balance of power, and they also have the cars are homologated where you can't change anything on them anyway, right?
Yes, correct. Yeah, as they're homologated, when you do the homologation paperwork, literally you have to take pictures of everything. Yeah. So you have to take a picture. This is the right front control arm. This is the left front control arm. This is the cylinder head. This is the cylinder head deck surface. This is the intake port. This is the valve. I mean, we called it the Homo book. That was like a Bill Riley. That was a Bill Riley deal. The Homo book was literally a 3-inch thick 3-ring binder with everything you wanted to know, and that was necessary because so many cars across so many platforms, the tech inspectors needed to know what was what, and that was how they knew, was the homologation book. So yeah, that was a good time. Learned a lot. That car actually had one of the most impressive data systems ever. I think we had around like 6 figures in just the electronics. So
I believe it.
It had ACL, a Motec ACL, which you don't ever see anybody use that stuff. It had a Motec ACL, 2 VIMs. We had a front and rear VIM because we needed upright accelerometers, you needed shock pots, you needed aero loads. Then you had all the other sensors fore and aft, and then the ADL3 was just simply used as a slave. All the data was come from the ACL, and that was like when we first started using Ethernet. So we could pull I don't even remember the size of data, but we could pull. Most stuff was logged at 20 to 50 hertz, some stuff 100 hertz, and we could pull an entire hour's worth of data in 8 to 10 seconds. So before the fuel was done, data would be pulled, which was important because we needed that.
And now they're all doing it over cellular, right?
Yeah,
real-time telemetry with a cell phone.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely not like it used to be, for sure.
Okay, so give us an idea of ramping up your business here with G Speed. So you got this big background in professional racing. You worked with your dad at LG Motorsports. So what kind of wanted you to do it as G Speed?
I really didn't want to be honest with you, in the beginning. So we'll rewind. So after ALMS, I was, things are still going pretty good. I ended up doing another season of Grand Am. The following year, we got a factory driver, Kelly Collins. We had another funded driver as a teammate with him. We built that car in 90 days. Insane, building a Rolex car in 90 days. after that season, 2010 season, I was exhausted. I'd spent 60 days in a semi. Literally, I had my CDL. I spent 62 days behind the wheel or in the sleeper, somewhere on the road, and I was burned out. So that led to me branching off. My dad and I, I love him to death, but he's Italian. I'm Italian. He has a temper. Fortunately, my mom's English, so I don't quite have the temper that he does. But we needed to get along as a father and a son, not a boss employee. So I had a good friend, Ryan, at the time, and we wanted to build a shop. So why not? Let's build a shop. And that shop was GSS Speed shop, lasted about 6 months, and I learned everything what not to do when building a business, which was too big too soon. No employees. Ryan and I were the only employees, and Ryan was still doing he was a body shop mobile technician. So you smash your car, you need the motor pulled to straighten the frame out. Ryan would come in there, blow the suspension off, blow the powertrain out, get it ready for the body man to do his work, and then he put it all together. So he was still doing that deal. I quit LG. I did GSS for about 6 months. We didn't see eye to eye. Man, I had a dyno, 22 cars in the shop, 4 lifts, 15,000 square foot shop, and literally like up and down in 6 months.
And I bought one of your lifts.
Right. Yeah. So as luck would have it, my dad and I became better friends. We were strengthening our relationship. I was just done with all that stuff. Literally 22 cars. I moved 22 cars into my dad's shop. I finished every one of them. It took me about 3 months to finish all the cars. And I went back to work for him. And I was committed at that point to work full time, to do whatever it took for LG Motorsports. And that's all I wanted to do. I didn't want to venture out. I didn't want to stare at the ceiling at 4 o'clock in the morning and wonder how I was going to pay my mortgage. That's definitely one of the scariest things, but it's also one of the most impressive motivators, is to stare at the ceiling and wonder, how do I provide for my family? How do I get this job done? How do I secure my next sale? Why, right? Mm-hmm. So when the liability is cranked up, you perform, and you don't really have an option.
That's definitely something that separates entrepreneurs from just your regular, just employees. Somebody who can work under that stress and under that kind of I guess motivation is really what it is.
Yeah,
so.
And it's scary. It's really scary. And looking back on it, it's those I guess I would call them motivators that really you either fight or flight. It's a fight or flight mechanism, and for whatever reason, I don't know why, but I never took the flight mechanism. I am flaky to a degree because of my ADD. I have severe ADD. I can never focus. I always have 10 things going on at once. It's really bad at times, but it's also what allows me to do some of the creative stuff that I've done over the years, and just allowed me to kind of think outside the box. So here I am. It's 2011, 2012. Working for my dad. Everything's going okay. I was happy to have a paycheck. I was happy to not have to wonder where I was going to get my next paycheck from. But at the same point in time, I was just cruising, and there's one thing about my dad is, he's definitely a guy who can get it done. He's definitely a good scrapper. And in the fight that is life, the fight that is what we do every day, he's a scrapper and he can get it done. So here he is. He has this business, very successful business. He's racing to a degree. I'm gone. I'm an enabler for his racing because I can build all the cars. I can fabricate everything. I can drive the truck. I can set the car up. I can pretty much tip to toe from, hey, let's build a race car, to, hey, we need to do this pit stop. Lewis can do it, start to finish, right?
Including laying up carbon and everything, right? You do everything. So
correct. So all of these things, we could never really afford, the top notch everything. So like the wiring harness, I think, was one of the things that we spent the most on various cars, and Cicada built that, did a fantastic job. The body work, needed finesse. The setup was all stuff that we did. Some of the suspension parts in various projects were like, make it up as you go. We're doing kinematics on dry erase boards, and to be honest with you, a lot of the stuff that we did was straight up, does it work or does it not work? And the only gauge for that was the lap time. So we did nothing with CAD. We did nothing with any software to figure out roll centers or anything like that. It was straight up, how does the car drive? What does it do well? What does it not do well? So here I am, 28 years old, 29 years old. It was to the point where I really needed to figure out what I was going to do in life. I'm getting older. I need to understand, what's my personal 1, 3, 5, 10-year goal. And settling down and having a family wasn't really on my radar because I have my blinders on doing this racing deal. And anybody that's gone racing understands that you don't really care about much else except racing, because there's really no time for anything else. So, man, I worked for him for another year and a half. I built a World Challenge Camaro, first 5th gen or second 5th gen Camaro that had been built from scratch, not a warmed over Grand Am car. Put a tilt and pedal box in it, moved the driver so far back that if we needed a gearbox shifter extension, a 12-inch shifter extension, the car was optimized. It was a great car. And it ultimately broke me because I was back to working 7 days a week, and I had a wonderful girlfriend who is now my loving wife and the mother to my 4-month-old child, and it just wasn't working. So here I am again. I'm backed up against the wall. I'm not doing what I want to do, but I'm not willing to go out on my own again. And so...
And I think this time frame was right around the time when we approached you guys for the very first beta of My Shop Assist, because I remember you were building parts for that Camaro, if I remember correctly.
Yes, that's absolutely correct. And that's when I think that's when I really met you and Todd. In fact, yeah. I think Todd and myself and my father went to lunch one day just to kind of talk about some things. Mm-hmm. And that's when I really met Todd. And I think that you guys were doing some Optima stuff where you had just started.
Yeah, that was the first event we did. Is you were there at the same time with your the ZR1 hill climb car that you guys had,
yes,
right?
Correct. And so when Optima, I think that they have a rule that if you're a pro driver, you're not eligible.
So your dad was excluded, right?
Yeah, so he was excluded. We wanted to do the deal, and actually Jim McIlvain, the guy who I still thinks runs a lot of that stuff, mm-hmm. Jim was a longtime customer and a fan of our race programs, and we had a really good relationship with Jim. And so he called us up and said, hey, do you want to come do this? And then, man, here we have this hill climb car. I don't know if it's what it's going to do. Let's do it. So, that's when I met you guys. Mm-hmm. So here it is, 2013. I've built this car. I'm freaking burning both ends of the candle. I'm so done. It's not even funny. I'm right back to where I was. I'm just not. It's just not working. So, rewind to 2010. Endurance racing Grand Am. We had a factory GM driver and a really good paying driver. And my dad was starting to age. He was a little bit slower than he used to be. And at Watkins Glen, the long course, the 6 hour, he was about a second and a half off the fast guys. And that's not a lot in the big picture, but in pro racing, we're talking like a tenth or two is a big deal. So here we are, 2013 is Camaro, and we're not that far off pace, but we're off pace. And we always flushed out our inabilities with hard work. So if we had an inability with engineering, if we had an inability with horsepower, if we had an inability with whatever, we flushed that inability out with hard work. And I was just exhausted. And he wanted me to work Sundays, and we got into a scuffle over, who's going to work what and yada, yada, yada. And he, ultimately said, well, if that's not what you're going to do, then after the COTA event, I think we need to go our separate ways. And I said, okay. That was my response. Didn't even think about it. Okay. So here I am. I got about 2 weeks to get my stuff together. And I had no plan. I didn't know. I just wanted a job. I was still burned out from the GSS deal, and just not really looking to. I still hadn't recovered from that whole mess, and just didn't really want to do that. And I think I actually went and tried to get a job with Terry Fair. We didn't see eye to eye. Tried to get a job with HVT, which at that time was AST Shocks, and he wanted to pay me a number that I just couldn't make work. And I don't think I talked to you guys at that point, but basically what happened was I went to 5 people looking for a job, straight up. I just want a job. My brain is dead. I need to recoup. I'm suffering a major case of burnout, and I'm just struggling. And what happened was I went to 3 or 4 places looking for a job, and none of them could afford me to a degree, but all of them could use my expertise, my talents, my experience. And what that turned into was 40 hours a week. So 4 or 5 places, 4, 5, 6, 8 hour, 10 hours a week.
Okay, yeah.
And before I know it, here all of a sudden I have work. So yeah, that's what started at the time was Gelati Racing, and didn't have any partners. Gelati Racing was my deal. My wife and I, actually my wife came up with the logo. She did everything that, we needed for that. And yeah, I had a friend who had a small little shop on the outskirts of town, and literally I just used that as my home base. Okay, so one of the things. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I know where this time frame is, because we had actually contracted you to make the front motor mount for one of the Evos with us, and you had made that jig for us. Okay.
Yeah, and that was I think I started some brake ducts for Todd, or that was one of the things we wanted to do, and then I made the front motor mount, and I'm not going to lie, that was definitely not one of my best moments, because I felt like at times all I was doing was putting out fires, and Todd was never a firer, so Todd's stuff never got done, But yeah, he did get his jig and he got all that stuff, and I hope that he got his, whatever he paid me on that deal, a couple $100. I hope he feels like he got his money's worth.
We have done nothing with it either, so
right? Yeah, the daily struggle. So here I am. I'm jobless. I have a ginormous mortgage payment because when I bought my home, the market hadn't quite crashed, and so
you did the same thing I did. Yeah.
Yeah. So here I am. I'm paying an outrageous interest rate. I have no job, so I can't go refinance, and I'm just stuck. I'm kind of backed in the corner again, and that's what started Gelati Racing. And one of the things that I didn't want to go do was I didn't want to open up another shop. So I kept it small. I didn't advertise. I didn't look for work, and people hunted me down. And just word of mouth, all 100% word of mouth. I think I might have grabbed a couple people off Facebook for business, just people asking questions and me giving answers. And next thing you know, they're dropping the car
building
off.
A car for them.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly. So at that time, I want to say it was summer of 2013. I was burned out. I'd been unemployed for probably 3 or 4 months. Not unemployed in the sense that I wasn't getting a paycheck, but still staying busy, still keeping a roof over my head. I have nothing in savings because I'm literally 18 months from just closing the doors on GSS, which took everything I had saved. And I went to Tony Palo, and I just was ready to close up everything and go just go work for him. And he grilled the snot out of me, and we had a really good conversation. We had some good talks, and at that time we had agreed that I had about 4 or 6 weeks worth of work left, and I wouldn't take anything in. I would just knock it out and literally just go work for him. And that's what started the uphill. So literally that pep talk, which was you're going to be employed by T1, that pep talk is what just kind of gave me the focus to get my work done, to go work for Tony, and then the work never stopped coming. So to this day, I haven't really hunted work. And so that was about 3.5 years ago. So let's we'll fast forward a couple months, and basically what happened was there was a shop at our local track here in Fort Worth at Motorsports Ranch, and the shop's manager, the shop's main man, he quit, and went off with the best customer. And here I am. Here's Lewis, right? One of the better road race guys for setup and chassis development, yada yada yada, in Dallas. All of a sudden, I have 4 customers who are staple customers at the shop. Why are they coming to me? And come to find out, they had no one to work on their stuff anymore. So that's going to pave the way for some stuff that we'll answer later. But the work never stopped coming, and here I am. I'm in this little shop behind a friend's house. I'm sticking to my guns. I'm not going commercial. I'm going to just keep it quiet, because the added load that comes from having to do the normal, commercial stuff,
Mm-hmm.
Your certificate of occupancy, your inspectors, blah blah blah, right?
Yep.
All that stuff that detracted from what I had to do, and what I had to do was I had to put my head to the grindstone and grind and get stuff done. So yeah, that was Gelati Racing. Not working for my dad, using my last name because I didn't want to. It was just original. I didn't want to struggle with the name. And sometimes some of you that are listening know coming up with a name for whatever it is you want to do can be a chore.
So location has played a role in your success being in Dallas and having lots of, big shops and people who are very influential in the industry, and the ability to bring you business continuously, even when you're just kind of doing it on the side or not wanting to do it again. It's still coming to you, right? So
yes,
and then of course the Crescent Motorsport Ranch location is a good place to have a race shop because it's on a racetrack.
Absolutely.
Okay, so have you ever doubted yourself and wondered if this doesn't work, and how did you overcome that feeling? I mean, it sounds like you've had quite a few times when you've doubted yourself and didn't really want to do this, but how about with G Speed? Have you ever doubted wanting to do that?
No, never doubted it. Definitely questioned how I was doing things. Definitely questioned, is what I'm doing the correct thing, but never doubted my abilities. Mostly never doubted my guys' abilities. The people that work for G Speed, the guys that are G Speed, they're the best at what they do, and that allows me to do what I need to do to run the company, to look ahead, to basically, the way my dad always put it, was to steer the ship. And so no, never doubted. Definitely questioned how or why sometimes. Why are we doing, we're at the racetrack. Why are we doing tires for $7 to dismount, $7 to mount, $5 to balance? Why am I doing that? Right?
Yeah.
Why am I doing that? No, let's go hourly. We need to do tire changes hourly, because if let's say Wally, fantastic technician, has to be pulled off of a car that's paying $115 an hour to work on tires, it's only going to pay a flat rate of $7 to dismount. I'm not interested, right?
Right.
So yeah, no, never doubted. And I'll say that my ADD and lack of attention span has probably helped that, because whenever I had visions of doubt, I would forget, just straight up forget and get back to work. So real good with burying my problems with work.
Okay.
Right? So it's common, and it's you see it a lot, but it helps to stave off those issues.
Okay. What's the worst experience you've had in business?
Oh, Kevin, there's been a lot. I would say the worst experience I've had, and I made the grave mistake again this fiscal year, which was letting a customer take their car without paying.
Oh,
and
Lewis.
I know. Yes. So I seem to fall into that trap once a year.
I do too,
and actually, this year I did it twice. To the tune of too many thousands of dollars. So very, very unfortunate. But don't do that. Seriously, you have to be a hard ass with that, and it's not fun because there's tempers, and it's just stand your ground. Stand your ground. Document. Signed work orders, signed approvals. Yes, you can work on my car. Yes, you have approval, right? Cover your ass, because the one time that you don't, you need it. And I think that's something that I notice a lot in the Do It For Living community is there's a lot of people that are in startup mode, or there's a lot of 1-2-man bands. And G Speed has 12 employees. We're a growing company with 7,500 square feet. We have 3D printer. We do a lot of stuff, and we have signed work orders for everything we do. If we're servicing a fire bottle that takes 45 minutes, we have a signed work order. And yeah, really, it does a couple things, and one of the things it does is it adds a layer of legitimacy, and it also covers your butt.
Right. Yeah, that's something that a lot of people don't do, and myself included. I mean, I have the form for it, and if I've gotten lazy with it. Every once in a while, I'll get in a mode where I get everybody to sign it, and then I get lazy with it. And now if there's a car that I suspect is going to be questionable on the dyno, or you don't know the customer, you just want to make them sign it just to feel safe. They get warm fuzzy inside. I do it, but I really need to get on it and do everybody.
Yeah. So, and that's the beatdown part, because you get these guys that come in, they want you to work on their car, and the next thing you know, there's a problem, or they take it. This is a funny one. They take the car, and you were the last one that did the oil change, and your guys initialed the oil filter, and they put the mileage and the torque spec on the filter, or their initials, or whatever, right? That's what we do. And then they blame you because you didn't fill it up, or you didn't put enough oil in it. And you tell the customer, no, sir, 2 technicians tested it and everything is fine, right? But I mean, that's the world we live in. There's people out, and that's all it takes. It takes one dude with to throw you some copper shavings from some motor which we don't know, and it's not the lawsuit that's the beatdown. It's the time. Yeah. It's the time, and I don't have time for that stuff. I'd rather just say, hey, look, I don't have time for that crap. Tell me how much it is, because the $6,500 for your motor rebuild is cheaper than it is for me to call my lawyer. So, yeah, I would say it's always important.
Okay. What's something you're doing right now that has you fired up?
There's a lot of stuff that's got me fired up. I would say the thing that has me fired up the most right now is we're doing a lot of development on the C7, and one of the discussions that came up on Facebook was, race cars. Let's talk about race cars. And having come from a family of nothing but racing, and having seen all that, I don't have a race car. Shoemaker goes without shoes. Definitely don't have a race car. And we had a customer approach us who, again, he came to the track. He ran his beautiful C7 Z06 in the summer, and it went literally one lap before coolant temp was 250, oil temp was 300, and the car was in limp mode. So, like, not even kidding, one lap, 1.7 miles, and it was in limp mode. So we started with a bunch of shelf parts, and 400 laps later, $65,000 of investment later, 24 model changes, and a month and a half, we have a fantastic cooling system that we have designed, developed, validated again, and man, it's just it feels so good to solve a problem and feel good about it. Sleep at night.
Is it to production already?
We are very close. I think we're lacking maybe a shroud, radiator shroud. Since the plastic piece that comes from the car on the factory, we modeled one out of sheet metal, because we now have 2 radiators, 2 oil coolers, 2 transmission coolers, and 2 blower intercoolers, because that car is supercharged. We just made it out of sheet metal, but we do I would say 50-50. We outsource all of our CNC parts. We outsource all of our CNC laser parts. We outsource all of our CNC sheet metal parts. And the boys, when they get all the stuff, they get with the engineer, Jake, and they'll make fixtures for everything. And then they'll make a run of, 10 or 20 or however many we feel is necessary, for the time investment. So yeah, we actually have one kit on a car now that we actually just took to COTA, and went a 10th quicker at COTA than McLaren P1 driven by. So, well, yes, we were on slicks, and that car was not.
It's okay. It's still 900 horsepower. It's no joke, right?
Yes, sir. The 900 horsepower shows because our trap speed was 150-ish, 155, and the P1 went just shy at 180.
Yeah.
So
I've got some in-car videos from one of our Evos out there with a P1, and it blows by the Evo like he's standing still.
Right? Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so let's take a quick break here. The goal of Do It For a Living is to give you insight to how others have become successful in this industry. Another thing we created to help with this is our Essentials of Operating a Shop seminar. This new class from EFI University is a one-day management seminar to help aftermarket automotive shop owners operate their business more efficiently. We cover various topics including employee management, accounting, marketing, purchasing capital equipment, and many more. We're holding our next class in Indianapolis, Indiana at the PRI show on December 7th. For more information, go to EFI101.com and check out the Essentials of Operating a Shop page. And be sure to use coupon code DIFAL for $50 off when you sign up. Okay, Lewis, so let's talk about your business specifically. So what about G-Speed? You said it was 7,500 square feet. Are you renting it or do you own it? And it's now at the old, I forgot what it was called, PST? It's in the PST.
Yeah. So if we go back to when Lewis was going to go work for T1, about that time, PST, Performance Speed Tech at Crescent, they lost their main man, and customers scattered, and they came to me. So all of a sudden, here I am with all these customers. We fast forward. We and my partners know that we're currently looking for a location. We were going to go close to Ennis by the drag strip, and it was close to Interstate 45. One of our partners is out of Houston. And basically, long story short, I had one of the salespeople from PST approach me about a job before we'd even made any type of commitment or move to go to the track. So G-Speed is, here we are. We're nothing but a piece of paper, with the state, and that's about it. So I said, hey, I went and interviewed at PST. Looking for a job. I have Dave, the owners. I have his cell number. Why don't we reach out to him? Because I don't want to take his sales guys, and I don't want to take his customers. So it's really a poor ethical decision to move out to the track and take more of their, to basically really just shots across the bow. That's not what we were about. And long story short, cold called, Dave picked up. 20 minutes later, we had a meeting set up, and I would say 2 months later, we agreed on a price. And about a year ago, September, I guess it was August of 2015, I moved into the shop, and here we are a year later. So, we're renting. We're at Motorsports Ranch. Think of Motorsports Ranch as like, let's call the track is the lake, and the garages that are out here are the slips. Yeah. So we have two big garages rented. We have a couple other garages that are scattered about, just because it's hard to get garages, and we barter with them later, so that way we can end up all under one roof at some day.
Yeah, and for people who aren't aware, Motorsport Ranch is like a country club track, and I think it's one of the first ones in the country like that, where yes, you like literally pay a membership. Then you pay your green fees, which is your monthly dues, and then you pay your session fees. But you can go there. I don't think it's 7 days a week, but maybe 5 days a week. The track is available to members. Yeah,
track is open actually 4 days a week, Thursday through Sunday, except on event weekends. And then you can rent the track actually pretty cost effectively Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday. So we're here. We're at the track. We're renting because we're prime location on track. You can't build anything. We've tried, and land cost is just astronomically high. It's around $500,000 for an entire acre. So, it's just cost prohibitive. So we're renting, but we're also keeping in mind that strategy is important, and we will own someday, but the focus is the business at this point. We have to be profitable. We have to have good percentages. We have to have good credit. We pay our credit card off every month except for $10. So our business credit is excellent. We know that what we want to do, we have to behave this way. Someday when it comes time to get a loan for it'll be very, very simple, very easy, good history, and yeah, when that time comes, we'll be ready for it.
Okay, so you said there's you and two other partners. Like, how does that work out, and how did that come to be?
One of the partners, Mike, he's the majority partner. He was a customer when I was at LG. And before anybody thinks that I stole him, no, I didn't. I was gone from LG for about 2 years before Mike approached me and said, I think I want to, first of all, I want you to work on my car. And second of all, I think that if you're interested, we might be able to put something together and start a business. And the second partner, Jerry, he's based out of Plano. He's actually partners with Mike in another business. They both do industrial electrical controls. So when you turn your water faucet on, their companies are the companies that run all the logistics, all of the integration for like the water pump plants, the water clean whatever that is, the water purification plants, treatment plants. Yep, the storm drain stuff. Basically, if electronics touch it and it needs to be controlled, they work on it.
Okay.
So
basically, no history in motorsports car stuff,
none,
right?
none, and it's a great thing. Mike is a racer. He was an old AMA racer back in the day on two wheels, and has always loved cars and motorsports. But he definitely has not had any business in motorsports. So that was a fantastic thing because we realized that this industry does not operate like any other industry. Terms are very common in contracting and industrial and a lot of other industries, but terms in the motorsports industry, not normal.
Because everybody walks out on it, right?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, sure. The barriers to entry for what we do, it's too easy. Exactly. So a bunch of flakes, and you need to pay me with your credit card before you get the parts, kind of deal.
Yep.
So, yeah, those are the two partners. They've been fantastic. They've taught me a lot. They've taught me a lot of what I didn't know. And the best part about it is they've experienced a lot of stuff that we're experiencing now. And
that's
it's good.
You have direction
because
then, right?
Yes, absolutely. Which at some point will bring us to our 1, 2, 3, 5, 7, and 10 year plans, and we know what's feasible and we know it's not.
Did you guys put together a business plan?
Yeah, totally, without a doubt. We had a business plan in place probably a year before we even opened our doors.
Okay.
And it took us about 3 months volleying back and forth, once or twice a week, to hash out those business plans.
Okay.
And it really gave us a vision into what we wanted to do, and it also gave us metrics that we had to hit. How
on target are you with the business plan to date?
Believe it or not, I'm ahead on year 1. I'm behind on year 2. We are on target for year 5. We are on target for year 10. So basically just set up a line graph of what we wanted to do, what we needed people wise, painting with a wide brush per se. Yeah. So year one has actually been really good. Year 2 is going to be a struggle because we're still stuck. We're finding all the bumps in the road and all of the sticky stuff from year 1. So, year 2 won't be. It's not going to be. I don't think it'll be. What we want it to be. And
you're still in year 2 right now.
We are 1 month into year 2.
Okay, so you just started.
just started year 2, and still a lot to go, but things that should have been in place already are not. So,
and for listeners who are like wanting to start a business, it's important to understand that you bring with you a whole lot of credibility, a lot of experience, and you know everybody. So you starting a business is not like somebody who just knows how to tune a car and wants to start a business. You have experience doing this, and you had direction, right?
Yes. Yeah, correct. Yeah. So there was a lot of stuff that I didn't. There were challenges that I didn't have to face that others will have to face. And it's definitely been one of the reasons why things have been as good as they've been. But with that brings other issues. of the stuff I took for granted with the customers and, not, letting cars go before they were paid. Had I been someone who didn't have any history, that probably wouldn't have happened.
Okay. How many employees are you at right now?
We're 12 employees, 12 full-time employees right now.
Okay. Do you find it difficult managing them?
Absolutely. Every day. I'll say that we have a fantastic team. We have a wonderful team. There is, in my opinion, from start to finish, there's very little that we can't do, that we can't accomplish from any perspective. And rallying the troops, as we like to call it, it can be a challenge. And we work on that every week.
Can you give us kind of like a breakdown of what they are all doing, or what you have people? Well, I mean, what do the 12 people do? We
set up our business in a couple different categories. Everybody does one of 12 things or two of 12 things, and those 12 things all go into a file folder, basically, of performance. And so if a technician works on a street car, that goes into category 3. If a technician works on a race car, that goes into category 4. If a fabricator fabricates an exhaust, that goes in category 10, which is fabrication. If Jake does engineering, that's engineering, and basically some R&D or R&E. That's category, I think, 11. But basically, we have 12 or 13 categories, and everybody does something within that. So we have 2 guys in sales. We have 4 technicians. So we do have a full-time accountant. And I will say that an accountant, everybody should have one. Our books are 100% straight. We could be audited right now, and there's nothing hidden, nothing funky about them, nothing that smells about them. The accounting is like a refrigerator. Every time you go home, you open your refrigerator and you just open the door and it's cold. And the one day the refrigerator breaks is like not having your accounting straight, and it's a big deal. So, it's something that we work hard at. It's something that I struggle with because accounting is something that I'm not very good at. It is just numbers, but a lot of it doesn't make sense. So, that's definitely something that I work on daily, to just understand and to learn.
Okay.
We have an engineer. We have 2 helpers. So someone brought up cleaning the shop. Someone handles that stuff, because if a technician is billing, it's not wise to pay him to sweep the floor. Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Someone to go get stuff for you, right?
Yeah. Yep. Go get stuff, take care of stuff, make sure stuff's organized, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay. And how many hours a week are you working?
Right now, probably at a minimum 50, at a maximum 65 or 70.
And that is probably, if I had to bet, that's cut down since you and your wife had the kid, right?
Yes, correct. So Emily is 4 months old. I was working minimum 6 days a week before she came, and sometimes 7, because being at the racetrack, we're open Wednesday through Sunday. So my wife would work Monday through Friday. I was working on the weekend. So come my weekend, which was Monday, Tuesday, she was at work. So it wasn't uncommon for me to just go in. And one of the things that we did when G Speed started was we were open 7 days a week. And it's been beneficial for some things, and it's not so beneficial for other things. But now I definitely try and take at least 1 day a week off, just to keep the balance.
Okay. And do you spend your time when you're there doing the work on the cars or managing the business?
I work 10 to 20%. I manage and run maybe 20 to 30%, and the remainder 50% is direction, ideas, planning, strategy, of running the business. Okay. Because if you are working in the business, you're not working on the business, and I think that's just a common forte that everybody always talks about. You can't work in your business and work on it at the same time.
Right, but it's true.
It's absolutely true. And I feel for guys like Cody Loveland and Joel, the wiring dude. because they are working on and in their business. And, I want to see them succeed. I want to see them do well. And the only way for that to happen is to not build an upside down pyramid. And my partners taught me that, yes, while Lewis can do everything from drive the truck, load the race car, set it up, crew it, all that stuff, you're not going to move forward doing that. You'll maintain status quo, but will never grow. And it's important to not build your business in an upside down pyramid. And a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of business owners struggle with that. And they make a living, they earn a living, but they don't build a business. So it's something you have to keep an eye on at all times.
For you, do you feel the pay justifies the time spent? Is this a G Speed venture working out for you, I guess?
Mm-hmm. We'll see. We'll see. We on paper we'll make money our first year, which is it's unheard of at times.
Mm-hmm.
But cash flow. If you are wanting to do something in this industry, in any industry, learn, read, understand, know what cash flow is. Just because you have sold something doesn't mean there's money in the bank, doesn't mean you can afford to pay payroll, doesn't mean it's not a guarantee for anything. So learn, understand, and take to heart cash flow, understand lines of credit, understand 30-day accounts, learn that, and do not ever take that for granted, because that's one of the things that being on the wrong side of the cash flow curve will absolutely put a company out of business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, fortunately, I've finally gotten to the point where I understand that enough where I'm actually on the positive side now.
That's good.
It took a long time, right? But
yeah, it did. Absolutely, it did. And I mean, how many times did you not take a paycheck because, you've got 3 cars that are done and customers need to come pick them up, but you got to pay rent or you have to pay something, right?
Right, exactly. What are your primary sources of revenue? Is it part sales, service, manufacturing, engineering? I mean, you're doing a little bit of all of it, right?
Yeah. So right now, what is it? The first couple of years of a business, you kind of squirm and you kind of try and wiggle your way around and figure out what you're good at. And it takes a couple of years before you really find that niche, what you're good at. And right now, I would say 20 to 30% of our revenue is part sales. We sell, we're basically the pro shop at the racetrack. So we have 1,000 square foot showroom with all driver gear, stuff that you need to fix your car at the track. We sell tires, blah, blah, blah. The majority of our income is service work. Having 12 employees, that's our product. Our product is service. Our product is race prep. Our product is fabrication. So we do a ton of service work. Engineering and manufacturing, I would say, is about 10% now, but we hope to flip that down the road and change that into a larger piece of the pie.
Awesome. So you really do have a little bit of everything. So
yeah,
go ahead.
Totally. Yeah, totally. We do. Absolutely.
Okay. And what about advertising and marketing? Is it still all word of mouth?
We spend about $800 a month in advertising, and that just comes in the form of forums, and really just that's it. We don't pay for Facebook advertising. We find that forums is our best form of communication with our clientele, and we don't vary from that much.
That's interesting, because most of the shops that we've been interviewing lately say the opposite, that forums are gone and Facebook is the way.
So you got to remember, you have to keep in mind, right? Guys like, oh man, I don't even know who to pick from. Yeah, sure. Facebook. Here's why Facebook is popular for a number of reasons. We all know why it's popular, but look at the targeting of Facebook. And yes, there's ways to really sharpen the stone for your target audience with Facebook, but it takes a skill set to understand that. Whereas if I want to target Subaru FT86 customers, I just hop on ft86club.com, and guess what? Everybody that's on that forum is there for the purpose of that car.
Very true. That's true.
So yes, I will say that because I can't just open up an app and talk to 20 different friends like I can on Facebook or Instagram. The forums are still relevant. Yeah, they're not that popular, but but also keep in mind that the people that are on the forums, the people that do still go to the forums, they're interested. They're all potential clients, and it's easy to get lost in the Facebook foray because it's just what's popular.
So while everybody's gone to Facebook, Lewis is here on the forums, taking everybody's customers, and that's why you have 12 employees in 1 year.
Yeah, that's funny.
Okay, what are the primary tools in your trade? I remember this had to have been when you first got started. You said you spent a lot of time making an Excel sheet that handles all your billing, or are you using QuickBooks, and what exactly are you using to run the business?
Okay, so to run the business, we use we use Excel. We use Excel every day, and we use QuickBooks. And QuickBooks is it's a chore. It's a struggle. We have a QuickBooks professional based out of Houston that we use, and we rely on her so much because running a business is much like doing anything well. You have to have data, you have to have knowledge, you have to have trends. You really need to see the TAC. You need to see what the oil pressure is, and the only way to get that is to know where to look in QuickBooks. And as long as you know what you're doing with QuickBooks, you can find a lot of information. And having worked with QuickBooks for the past 15 years, I would say I've learned more about QuickBooks in the past 12 months than I have the previous 15 years.
I think that's important. And is that woman who's helping you, is she like a consultant, or is she just is that a business? What's her name? Like, can you give her information?
Her name is Julie Gilmer, and she's based out of the Woodlands, or North Houston.
And how does that work with her with you? Does she remote desktop on your computer and just check it once a week or something?
Backtracking a little bit, all of the guys fill out work orders for what they do, and then if they have non-billable time, that gets billed to the company. And that's not necessarily to bill the company, but it's to keep track of who's doing billable versus non-billable. Mm-hmm. And every day I review the efficiency of each technician, and then Tanya takes those and she inputs all the efficiencies, all the areas that everybody worked in, so that way I can say, hey, you know what, the last 6 months I've only done $5,000 in tire work, so you know what, I could sell my tire machine and not really care. Mm-hmm. Or I can say, hey, you know what, because I've done $3,000 in tire work, I sold 10 sets of Hoosiers, we really need to keep doing this stuff.
And this is also what's important about this is as many shops as I've visited, a lot of people don't have any detailed information on what they're selling, which is probably the most simple thing to do in QuickBooks, but to make sure you can break these things down in different categories in QuickBooks, and that allows you to do things like what you just said.
Correct. Yes, and that's the chore with QuickBooks. That's where if you're working in your business, you're not working on your business. And if Joel has his nose to the desk working on a wire loom, he can't open QuickBooks and say, hey, you know what, if I paid a kid, $15, even $20 an hour, right? Because like Tony says, you get what you pay for, especially when it comes to employees. Joel might be able to say, hey, you know what, if I just sold connectors, if I sold hard to get Nissan GTR connectors, I wouldn't have to build looms. But he can't, because all he's focused on is what's in front of him. So, it's important to know what you sell and what you're good at and where your strong points are. And as long as you put good data into QuickBooks, you'll get good data out of it.
Okay, so you're calling out Joel. We'll have to see what he says. I'm just kidding.
I'm picking on Joel because I'm a big fan of Joel.
Me too.
I really I'm pulling for him, and I want to see him succeed. He does a lot of cool stuff. He does a lot of good things, and I would say most of all, I appreciate his candid person, because I know it's a beat down at times. I've sent him stuff. I've given him potential work, and I've never been able to do business with him because timelines didn't line up and schedules didn't line up, and that's okay, because someday we'll be destined to work on something together. But in the meantime, we share a lot of commonalities, and that is a small business owner and doing what we do, right? We're doing it for a living. And just like Cody, same thing. I have a lot of love for that guy because of what he does. And dude, he'll work circles around me, and that's how he's able to fill the gaps, because the things that they have to get done, they just basically they flush it out with work ethic, and that's to be applauded for.
Yeah, Cody's definitely out of this world with effort. I mean, even in his own car, of all things, too. I can't even imagine how many hours he's got into that thing.
Yeah, I can't. It's awesome, and he's doing a great job. And I know that he struggles with, am I doing the right thing? Am I going the right direction? Is this the right thing to do? And all I can say is at some point it'll pay off, whether it's he sells his car for 6 figures or, 150 or two, he could fire sell that car and like he says, pay off a bunch of bills. And then you know what? Use your hands, invest your sweat equity, and build another one because someone else wants to buy chassis number 2 and chassis number 3.
And then they get faster and faster to build.
And you know what? By the time you get to chassis number 5, you have a badass car and you know exactly what to do and the customers know what to expect and you're doing the maintenance on chassis number 1 and 2 and,
That was his goal, and we're going to talk to him about this in a future podcast. I definitely have him on my radar of people to talk to, and me and Cody have talked a lot in the past about that car and about all the other stuff too. So he's a good guy.
That's good. Yeah.
Okay, and what's something that you do differently that you think makes yourself successful that others might not have thought about?
Kevin, I don't think that there is one thing. There is no magic pill. It is everything together. It is my team. It is all my guys. It is our drive to want to do the best that we can do. It is my partners for guiding and holding my hand when it's necessary. It's my wife for allowing me to talk to you at 8:30 on a Friday night. It's everything. There's no one thing, and I think that people need to understand that there's no magic pill. There's no one product. There's no one breakthrough that is going to make or break you. And of course, there's always outliers. But let's face it, not everybody has those opportunities, and so you need to be able to do everything well. And if I back to the question, is there any one thing I do well? I would say that. My communication is terrible. Call the front office, and efficiency has got to be one of the things that we do well, and it didn't come easy, and it's a struggle on a daily basis.
So what kind of efficiency do you see out of your techs, billable versus non-billable time? What do you target?
We target 88 to 92. We have cases where we're 110% billable. We have cases where we're 30% billable. We typically strive for a rolling 10-day average of 78 to 82. Anything less than 75, and we'll start to feel it financially. And anything in the 60s, we're losing money.
And is that as a whole, or is that on an individual basis?
No, that's as a whole. That's everybody.
Okay, so because you have overhead people that are going to be billing 0. Or
Correct.
0%, and then you have people. Your techs should be close to 100 all the time, right?
Yep, correct.
Okay.
And so, we go back to the QuickBooks deal. Our showroom, we have floor sales, and we know exactly what our floor sales are. And believe it or not, our sales guys, the floor sales cover their paycheck.
Yeah, that's what we kind of push in the class. Is part salespeople should be able to support themselves.
They have to. They absolutely have to. And aside from the billing, aside from all the other stuff that they do, they're not a technician working on stuff. They don't get dirty, but they're extremely important, and they're an integral part of the entire equation.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's take another break here, and then we'll follow up with some more of your long answer questions. Owning a shop is difficult, so we created My Shop Assist to help you manage the various jobs. Whether you run a machine shop, a performance tuning shop, build off-road trucks, or even do powder coating, My Shop Assist can help. It is completely online and will help you schedule the jobs, log time on each task, track parts orders, and take pictures of the work. You can even export your jobs from My Shop Assist into QuickBooks as invoices. So if you're interested in improving operations at your shop, check out myshopassist.com to start your 30-day free trial. Okay, so Lewis, what's something you struggle with business, and how do you deal with it?
What do I struggle with? Communication. Communication has to be my all-time struggle in family, in work, in customers. Everything I do is communication, and I still to this day it is something that I struggle with on an hourly basis. So
we need to get you one of those virtual assistant people, huh?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What's your 1-year plan for the business?
Without getting too drawn out, 1-year plan with the business is to we want to add a more of a street performance side, which we have that. We have the street performance side, but we want to work with we're targeting a different clientele, and that clientele is not one that's the typical person you find on the forum. It's more of an enthusiast that's a little bit more laid back, and not the hardcore racer, because we all know that the racer we know that type.
Mm-hmm. And what's the 5-year plan for the business?
5-year plan for the business, we would like to be doubled in employee size, and we want to be tripled in shop size.
Okay, and will you be able to do that at Motorsport Ranch, or are you looking elsewhere?
We're working on it. We don't have an answer to that question.
2 locations, probably, huh?
Yes, correct. We'll absolutely always have a showroom and a quick service at the track. If we can strike a deal here to have everything under one roof, that's ideal, especially from an efficiency perspective. But if that's not meant to be, it's not meant to be.
Okay. We like to take action at Do It for a Living. Can you suggest an action item for our listeners that they can use to improve their situation?
Efficiency. Everything comes down to efficiency. If you're efficient at what you do, no matter what it is in life, it will pay dividends.
Amen to that. Okay, and then the quick answer questions here. Just think of whatever comes to mind. What's a game-changing product you've seen in the last year?
My personal products, or just in general?
Anything.
I wish Paul Yaw would come out with his positive displacement fuel pump. I think it's been tested enough, and I'm ready to see it.
Yeah, I think it's been at PRI the last 2 years now, right? Okay, we'll give him shit for that, too. Okay, and what software programs are you using daily?
Excel.
Okay. What's your favorite app on your phone?
Oh, God. Instagram.
Oh, you're an Instagram guy, huh?
Not really. I'm not, and that's the thing.
Just like to look at stuff?
I am trying to. I am personally my personal account, and I'm okay with my personal account because it's me. Since the G is me. I am close to 1,000 followers on Instagram, but just I feel like that's an avenue that we can tap into. I think. But, like I said, the forums is a pretty tried and true way. But Instagram, you see guys like Toxic Fab and a couple
he
of
went
these
out
other...
of business, didn't he?
No, did he really?
I thought he did.
Well, I know he was making knives.
Maybe that's what he did. Yeah, that might be it.
So, yeah, in fact, I need a Toxic Cup. My Fab guys, we actually do work here and we break things, and I think we've broken in the past year 3 Toxic Cups, which is not bad considering the amount of Fab work we do with the amount of Fab guys we have. So if he's listening, I would like to buy some.
Okay, maybe he just stopped doing the car stuff. Maybe that's what it was.
That might be it, because I know that the manifold thing was good for him. He was building several manifolds a week, and that basically shrunk down to nothing.
Okay, and what's your favorite shop tool?
My favorite shop tool has got to be a 3D printer. We built and designed our own in-house 3D printer. It's an 18 cubed platform. The bed is heated and the bed moves. The head moves in XY direction, and the bed moves in the Z axis. So it's not like the head moves in X, Y, and Z. Okay.
And what kind of car are you driving right now?
I drive a 2011 Chevrolet Dually diesel.
And you don't have a race car?
I do not. No, sir. No,
so for the people in that in our community talking about that discussion there, Lewis has been racing cars for his entire life, and he doesn't have a race car.
No, sir. There's a time and a place for that, and it is up to you as your business owner to know when that time is right. And if it's not right, it's not right.
Okay. And what do you think the future of automotive performance is going to be?
Electric motors.
Me too.
Electric motors. There's going to be a lot of hybrid stuff. There's going to be, we're even seeing it today. A lot of battery technology, a lot of battery control technology, a lot of electric motor technology. It is going to be that way whether we want to admit it or not. And we're already here. I mean, we're the Porsche 919 hybrid the McLaren P1, the Porsche 9 hybrid. The I don't know if you have the opportunity, I would suggest if you Google Porsche 919 hybrid and just go listen to an in-car from any of the races. Spa is a good one, or even Le Mans is a good one. Listen to that work, and that is where we're headed.
And the 919 is a Le Mans car, right? Because the 918 is a street car.
Yes, 918 is a street car. Again, it's hybrid. The 919, extremely fast car. Ginormous electric recovery and electric motors. It has a 2-liter, 500 horsepower V4, extremely non-conventional, and a lot of electricity behind it. And the noise that car makes when the electric system is working versus when it's recovering versus when it's powering is incredible. You can hear it, and that is the direction we're going. It'll make you giggle.
All right, we'll check that one out. We'll share the link too. And how do we connect with you and your company?
gspeed.com and on Facebook and on Instagram.
Okay. Louis, I really wanted to thank you for taking the time to talk with us and share your story.
Thanks, Kevin. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for listening to Do It for a Living. You can find out more about this guest, this show, and even details about what we just talked about at our website, doitforaliving.net. Check out the Facebook page at facebook.com/doitforaliving and tell us who you want to hear